This is John Nugent.
I'm Ron Peters.
And I'm Sam Long.
Welcome to the After Class Podcast.
Because the best conversations happen
after class. Thanks for joining us in another episode of the After Class Podcast. We're glad to have you along. We previewed in the last few weeks about the start of school, and that has happened, and we're all excited about it. We're not going to bore you with the details, but school has started, except for Ron, and we're all back. Oh, sad. And we're all back at it, so we'll maybe have some updates here and there in the next few weeks when things happen. But
it's off to a good start.
Off to a great start, yeah.
Numbers are great.
Yeah.
Love hearing that.
Increased over last year, highest numbers in the last 20 years.
That is great. Love hearing that.
Since 2007, it's the highest number, I should say.
Have you met many of the incoming freshmen?
Yeah, I have.
Quite a bit.
Yeah. Are they impressing you?
Some of them. The class as a whole is good.
Yeah. Solid.
But
Yeah.
only so many impress, you know.
I know, right?
I have a high
Stand
bar.
above the other.
Right, I have a high bar.
And, there's always going to be, some filtering as we go along.
Not easily impressed.
That's right.
I agree.
And we hardly know them so far.
Yeah. Sure.
Once we start seeing their work.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
A lot of people talk the talk.
Indeed.
Yep. Now we want to see if they can walk it. I get it.
But we want to open with a question received from a listener, Adrian. Don't remember her last name.
Her married last
Stratton
name.
slash.
I know. Sorry, Adrienne. I should remember your last
We're
name.
the worst.
I apologize.
She sent us a list of questions, so we're going to use one today. Today is how, maybe why, did you choose the name of your child slash children?
Yeah. Mine is, it's kind of a boring story. I have one child. Her name is Janelle. With her, I have 6 grandchildren, so just making her family huge. Her name, I had a second cousin who I'm still very close to. Her name is Janelle. And for whatever reason, I just fell in love with the name. It wasn't even so much that I'm like, oh, you're my favorite cousin in the world, and I've got to name my child. But I just thought, Janelle, what a great name. It was unusual. I haven't known very many Janelles in my life. And so I said, that's the name that I want to use. And so when she was born, that was the name she got. And she is an absolute Janelle. I think it is the perfect name for her.
Yeah, excellent. So my wife had spent decades planning what her married life
She had a
was going
book,
to look
with
like.
a 3-ring binder and everything.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, when we sat down to plan all things wedding and then later all things children, like she already had a game plan. And so she had the first child's name picked out if it was a girl, and it was going to be Alexia. And I remember talking together about possible different middle names, and one of them was Lene. And I really liked Lene because my mom's name is Linda. And so it's kind of like part of my mom's name is built into the middle name of my daughter. So that's how we got our oldest, Alexia Lene. And then when we got to daughter number 2, I have 3 daughters, on Beth's list was Sierra. Right? And then as we got talking, it was just like, it would be cool if we could make kind of their middle names match, and even their first names. So like Alexia ends with the sound, and Sierra ends with that. So we wanted to find a name that kind of rhymes with Lene, and so we ended up with Renee. So Sierra Renee, and so the two names kind of parallel. And then when it came to our third daughter, we went with Alyssa because it has that same kind of feel, ending with the A sound. And we did something kind of like what we did with Lexi. Her middle name is Lene, and that's my mom's first name, kind of a play off of Linda. Well, my dad's name and my name is John, and so we went with Janae for Alyssa's middle name. And so we got Alexia Lene, Sierra Renee, and Alyssa Janae. So a little bit of paying homage to the parents, a little bit. My wife had a list, and it was mine to kind of help come up with what we could.
So she had a list, but you got to tweak and bring your own little spin to it. And you guys put a lot of thought into those names, like trying to get the same rhyming pattern and all that. I think that's beautiful. So many parents would be like, "That's too much work." They don't want to put that much in their kids' names. But I think it speaks to the kind of the love and commitment you have for your daughters. So, do they realize that? Are they aware of all that?
I think so. I think so. We must have talked about it at some point.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Can you match that?
No, not like that. I had a baby book and I dropped it, name book, and it fell on the one. No. So Elijah Samuel is my son, and So my name obviously is Samuel, so that was kind of brought in. But I also, wanted it to mean something. So Elijah means like my God is Yahweh, and and he's also one of my favorite characters in the Bible. And so that was the easy sort of Hebrew. He got a Hebrew name. Sophia got a Greek name, Sophia Charis, wisdom and grace. And so those are the things I hoped and dreamed and prayed for that she would possess. And so that's why we picked it.
And so the names obviously have meaning for you too, especially Elijah being you're an Old Testament guy,
Sure,
favorite Bible guy,
right?
So no, I like hearing that they have those kinds of special meanings.
Well, and the Elijah story was your favorite funny
right.
story from the Old Testament. So
correct.
going back to our last episode, we
Yeah.
picked our favorites. So your son reminds you of humor, and he has indeed inherited your humor.
He has done it some.
Without a doubt.
For good or for worse. But
I got to see that on the Hawaii trip this last year
I
when
can
he was
imagine.
with us. So yeah, he was great. So do you think that your daughter shows the kind of wisdom you were hoping for?
Oh, we're getting there.
For sure.
She's young, but she's doing great. Yeah.
Very good.
As I said, I have high standards, and
Yes,
yeah.
too.
And they're both students at Great Lakes right
They are.
now. And
Yeah.
Sophia was in youth group when I did a lot of teaching in a discipleship group I did at church, and she has wisdom beyond her years, for sure.
That's good to see.
Sometimes for sure. But other times,
Well, parents
Well-
see all the sides.
correct. That's exactly right. Yeah. No, but they're great. So yeah, your kids are out, my kids are in. Pretty soon your grandkids may be here. You never know.
Well, that's just it. My grandkids are talking about coming here for college. And
how
so
old are they?
The oldest is 11. She'll
Okay.
be 12 here pretty soon. And so
That will be here before you know it.
Yeah, we're talking about 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my grandkid is talking in Babel speech.
Yeah. But he's talking about Great Lakes. We know for sure he's talking about Great Lakes.
Very clearly Great Lakes
Yeah,
in the Babel speech.
He can't quite say grandpa yet. He said Papa.
That's pretty
So-
good.
Yeah, I like it. It's I don't know if it's going to stick, but it's a start.
That age is great because my youngest grandchild is about the same age as your grandson. And it is just so much fun. And watching them as they begin to produce those words. I thought we were done. Like all of our grandkids were older. And when my daughter came and said, I'm going to have another baby, I'm like, yes, we get to have one more baby in our family. And it is so much fun.
Yeah, very cool.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to start a new series. We
A
Well,
one-off.
not a series yet.
A one-off.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, today's our one-off,
That's
yeah.
right. That's next week. We're going to begin a new series.
Preview it if you want. I'm just either I'm unprepared or something else is going on.
And so, every once in a while we have interactions with listeners,
Right.
and sometimes we hear things in the way they talk about the podcast, and we're like, no. That's not what we want you to do with our podcast. That's not what we want you to take away.
Please
That's not how we want
stop.
the podcast to function. And so we thought we would come up with an episode that just kind of listed the top 10 thou shalt nots with the After Class podcast.
What I really want to do is I want to get this into like the Tonight Show, David Letterman. And then I realize how many people don't have a frame of reference for that.
Correct.
Like we know it really well, but so many people are like, David, who? Like I keep forgetting it's that old. Because I want to hear that, like this, I want the music back there. And then somebody listening will be like, where does that come from? It's just not a non-thing for them.
Maybe our audio technician, Drew, can push a little something in here. Insert now.
That'd be great.
You're supposed to leave a pause there for him to insert it.
Hey everyone, Drew the audio guy here. Now, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure the late night theme is actually copyrighted, so I'm not going to insert it into the episode. Sorry to disappoint.
Drew, make it happen.
Okay. Oh, this got awkward. That's great.
Poor Drew adding to his labor in editing this thing.
All right. So, Sam, you want to kick us off with
Uh,
number 10? We're
number
going to be
10.
going backwards.
Sure.
All right.
Number 10. Don't assume that what we say represents everyone at Great Lakes Christian College. Now, I like this one because I think we used to have a disclaimer early on. Like
We
early
did.
on,
Oh,
we had a
that's right.
disclaimer.
We did, yeah.
With the then President Larry Carter had a little thing, and a couple of people were like, "Is this for real? Like, do you have to put it?" Like, no, it was a joke back then.
It was
Yeah.
a joke.
So, to be clear, I mean, we had like a sign off.
Yes.
Right. And then we just had who was it that said it? The views expressed in
That
this
was
podcast.
Larry.
That was Larry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So the former president, had this. It was a humorous disclaimer. The views represented in this podcast do not necessarily represent Great Lakes Christian College or its
Yeah.
board of trustees or its administration. Blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And yeah, some people are like, "Oh wow."
Did you have to do that? We had to put that fire out really fast.
It's clearly meant to be a joke, but
well, not clear enough to some people. I mean, it was clear to us that it was a joke.
That'll get to another one of our how not to listen to the podcast.
But either way, obviously, we one of the great things about the school is the academic freedom, where we don't all have to fall in line and sign a particular doctrinal statement and so forth. Like, we can have diverging views within reason, and that's it's part of who we are. And so just because we say it doesn't mean everyone necessarily agrees with it. We don't agree with each other in the same room on every single thing.
Right. Yeah, and there are some great debates we have around the lunch table or whatever amongst the faculty, even amongst the staff, the VPs and all that. And so we have great relationships here. Don't assume that means that we don't get along. But yeah, different people, different views, and that's the great thing about the academy is that you expect that kind of diversity of opinion. That's what makes us strong as an institution.
Yeah, a classic example of this is, we can be kind of cynical and suspicious of, the church getting involved in political type stuff or interacting with the state and stuff like that. And people assume that, that's where Great Lakes is at. And no, in the office right next to us is Doug Walker, who's a political science major. And he has a very different kind of nuanced, informed opinion on church and state and how they might interact. And Lloyd Knowles, again, would have a different kind of view. And so Charlie Starr might have, again, a different point of view. And so we have a diverse faculty team here, and we're the only ones you listen to week in and week out here. And you could make the assumption that that's where we are because because these three members of the faculty Bible theology team, which, by the way, are not the only members. We have 3 others that teach into Bible and theology.
Yeah, good point.
Don't assume that our views collectively represent the whole Bible and theology team, or certainly not the whole faculty or administration.
Right. Number 9.
Perfect that Ron says it.
I know, pregnant pause. Don't make too much of how we poke fun at each other. I thought you guys liked each other, and you're always ripping on each other. It's funny because I've been thinking about this. I was listening to a podcast a week or so ago, and it was like this biological doctor, and she was talking about men and testosterone and all that kind of stuff, and how it just reaffirmed something I've always said, that to be a guy is to live in an eternal battle of King of the Hill. Guys are just always playing this game, and it's just what we do. We poke fun at each other, and sometimes we all make mistakes as we're about to say something, and the other two are like, I don't think that's what you meant to say. And so we make fun of each other, and we understand it. We're friends. We like to hang out, and sometimes you make fun. Don't read too much into it. It's just a good time. And we know that, and I hope our listeners realize it as well.
So I remember very early on the podcast when Jamie Wetzel, who's now our vice president of institutional advancement, he said, there's someone at my church that listens to your podcast, and she really doesn't like how Ron gets made fun of on the podcast. She's feels bad for it.
Whoever you are, thank you so much.
And also, that Sam guy is a jerk.
He is such
full
a
on jerk, which is true, but that's not the point of this.
But if we do that, it's in the spirit of friendship and camaraderie and playfulness and trying to genuinely make the podcast entertaining.
It is.
We go through some heavy stuff, but it's hard to listen to heavy stuff for 45 minutes. So anytime we can inject humor into it, even at the expense of one another, we do that. And because we're committed to not editing our recordings and creating all that work, even if we go too far, we don't want to edit the episode. We just leave it in there and keep going on. So
it's a good time. We have a really good time with it. And just know, we hang out together, not just at work, but outside of work. We hang out each other because we like each other. So it's all just part and parcel of being buddies.
Yeah, and we have broad shoulders. We can take it. We've all sat in front of a dissertation committee and had them destroy what we've written. So this is tame compared to that, I would think.
My dissertation wasn't even the worst. I wrote my first semester of my PhD, I wrote a paper that got ripped to shreds in the professor's office. And he's like, his words were, "You think this is doctoral level work?" I don't now.
Well,
it was hard.
I remember talking to you after that happened.
Yeah.
It was pretty...
I was pretty shaken, to say the least.
It was pretty intense.
Yeah. I didn't quit.
Yeah. Kept pushing through and
right.
Graduated with distinction.
Yay. We'll take it.
All right. Number 8. Thou shalt not freeload.
Okay.
And what we mean by that is you're getting this free service. We don't even inundate you with advertisements. If we were going to, we probably would have done it a year ago. I guess we're not going to.
It's never going to happen.
And you know
As
what?
you know, that's a shot against me, by the way.
In keeping with the previous command. But I like that we don't because, putting, I don't know, it's to give it as a gift and we're not getting anything out of it, I think lends some sincerity points to what we're doing here. And so you know what our motives are. We're trying to be a gift to the church and not a money-making using Bible knowledge or Great Lakes platform to make money. So kind of like offering as a gift. So, we don't give you ways to subsidize through commercials, but we would like you to take the time to like it. Whatever podcast provider you're in, share us on your networking programs. Give us a positive review in iTunes or whatever. Give lots of stars.
Yeah.
That's the way you can help make what we're doing visible and accessible to a wider audience. And frankly, as many listeners as we have and as many downloads as we have on a weekly basis, a very, very small fraction of you have actually gone that next step to increase our visibility. So don't freeload.
Yeah.
Find a way to, if you find benefit more what we're doing, find a way to spread that to other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I rep the podcast all the time. Just a couple weeks ago, we were up in the UP, and we were going to, it's called Pasty Fest. And for those who know what pasties are.
That sounds great.
It was great to say, if you know what pasties are. But I wore my after-class T-shirt. I'm like, I'm going to be around a lot of people. I'm repping the podcast. And so I wore my T-shirt. I didn't get any conversations out of it, but who knows? Maybe somebody saw it and went, I wonder what that is. Just little things that you can do to represent are always going to be beneficial. But nothing is more beneficial than giving us stars and writing a review.
5 stars to be clear.
Agreed. Yeah, if you're going to give us 1 star, just stay away.
Exactly. Number 7, thou shalt not assume that a position we articulated on air 7 years ago is identical to how we still view a topic. So we are scholars, and we are constantly learning and growing and seeing what else is out there, and we're open to the fact that we could have been wrong. And so that's, part of what it means to have a critical mind, is you're critical of yourself too, and everything that comes your way. And so, if things come like, oh, that's different, that's better, then we are willing to change. So if you go back and you listen like, boy, I don't know about that. Well, we may not either anymore. Right. And we'd love to have a dialogue. Send us an email, send us a Facebook message and say, hey, you said this in the podcast. Can you explain what you meant by that? And what do you think about this other thing that may contradict you? Because we may now agree with that other thing.
Yeah. I have a couple examples of this. Yeah. One from a few years ago and one this month, I think.
Okay.
Wow.
A while back we did one on the history of the relations between the state of Israel.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And statehood in that time period. And afterwards, Aaron Woods, who's now on staff with us, teaching some Bible class for us and helping coordinate the grad program, he kind of leaned into us and said, there's a lot more to this story. And you guys kind of did a pretty light version of it. And he would add a lot of nuance. And I was like, you know what? You're probably right. I would need to do more research. And we gave all those disclaimers, but I've learned since that conversation, my view is more nuanced. And so that's just an example. We don't freeze. The other one, so in one of our opener topics not too long ago was, what is our favorite fast food French fry?
Okay.
And I think I said Chick-fil-A.
Probably.
With an honorable mention to McDonald's when I was younger. And then I realized, no, my actual favorite, because I went back to Penn Station, the sub place.
Yeah.
They are my favorite fast food fry. So it's not Chick-fil-A. It is Penn Station. I have grown.
Maybe.
You have grown.
Some may suggest you've gone backwards, but that's,
At least I've changed. I've
changed
changed since my earlier position. So, but know that about all the episodes. As scholars, we're giving you our best working theory as of today, and we're constantly reading, growing, going to seminars, and as iron sharpens iron, we keep being sharpened in different ways.
Yeah, that's not to say we will turn our backs on, the divinity of Jesus and
high view of Scripture.
Right, that's not happening. But these little topics that we go through, things can change.
And nuancing is just a fact of life. And the fact, it's not like we get our doctorates and go, now I know everything and I don't have to learn anymore. That's just the next step in the learning process. And that's what I love about this job is that we're going to conferences and reading books. Like the worst thing is when you go to a conference and not learn anything new, because I want to learn new things and I want to be transformed by that knowledge. And so there's a very good chance that anything that we've articulated down through the years has been nuanced as we learn new things.
Yeah.
It's just great.
You make an important point there. Like some people think that once you get a doctorate, you feel like you've arrived and you know everything. And one of the characteristics of receiving a doctorate and why we want to have doctorates as professors, which, by the way, fun fact, as of now, Great Lakes, 100% of Great Lakes' faculty either has a doctorate or is in a doctoral program.
Full-time faculty.
Full-time faculty, yeah, which is crazy. That's never happened in the history of our school, and probably not in the history of most of the schools, if not all the schools in the Restoration Movement. So that's pretty cool.
That is exciting.
And that 90% is, there's like one full-time faculty who doesn't, and they're in the program. Everyone else does. And that's just, God has been gracious to us, and that's really cool.
Amen.
But one of the characteristics of getting a doctorate and why we want people like that is once you get a doctorate, in learning as much as you can in the world about one specific topic and going that deep, you realize that, oh, shoot, I know so much more now that I've gone way deep into the rabbit hole, and all these other topics I've never done this with, I know that I don't know everything. Like, so one of the characteristics of someone who has a doctorate should be they have a greater sense of humility about what they don't know. And sometimes if you go halfway and maybe you stop with a master's degree, you could feel kind of puffed up, right? Like, oh, I've arrived. And like you experienced when you went into your doctorate program, they shred you.
They do. Oh my gosh.
And they humble you, and they help you realize just how much you don't know about everything in the world. But by the time you leave, you're going to know everything about one topic. And at least everything that there is to know now. And for us, in English.
Right.
So anyway, humility, and that's the way we think about our knowledge and what we say. It's always provisional. It's always my best theory as of today, knowing that I have a lot more to learn.
Amen. I agree. Am I next? We got so off on that, I couldn't remember where we are. All right, number 6. Don't assume that how we talk about a subject on the air is identical to how we teach incoming freshmen and master's program students. And I think this is so important because I don't actually teach freshmen, but even in my sophomore classes, it's like you have to talk to them where they are. And there are certain topics you can't even bring into the classroom because you're either going to overwhelm them or freak them out or something like that. And so it's a growth process. We know that coming in as freshmen, this is what we need to give them. As sophomores, we can talk about it. Now that we're doing a grad program, I'm really excited to have some conversations that I've never really had before and go to the next level of depth and breadth of conversation. And so understand that the conversations we have here don't even necessarily reflect the kinds of conversations we're having in the classroom. And that doesn't even mention like when students come into our offices or when we're sitting around the lunch table. And so we as professors try to be very discerning about where people are and make sure that we're challenging them, but not overwhelming or breaking them.
Yes, and this is just a flaw of the medium. We have 45 minutes to crank through something, and we try to give as much as we can, but the nuance ends at some point, right?
Right.
But when you have a full semester class and you have outside hours and all the rest, the best conversations that happen, right?
Right.
When you have all that, you're able to say, okay, yeah, I said that, but here's more to the story, right? And so like in class, I'll usually give a couple perspectives, like you can believe this, this is where we're at, right? And so we don't have time to do that here as much.
Yeah, there are good people who love the Bible, love God, have a high view of Scripture, who take different stances on this issue. Yeah, that's more likely what the stance we land on when it comes to controversial subjects, or at least how we teach it.
Yeah.
Right. And, the podcast to me lands somewhere between how we talk to freshmen, sophomores, and how we talk to graduate students.
Probably right.
Right? Like, we're a lot more, because a lot of our listeners, they have gone to Bible college or they're experienced leader in a Christian church. They're a pastor somewhere. Some have master's degrees, some have PhDs, so we kind of elevate the discourse beyond where we meet freshmen in their place. And then at the same time, in the graduate program, because we have, 4 years if they're going part-time to like develop complex thoughts. We're probably going to go deeper and heavier than we can here because we can presume that they've done, 80 to 100 pages of reading on this topic before class meets.
Right.
And you, our listeners, are coming in not having prepped at all for the
Wait,
episode.
they don't prep for these?
Right.
So,
Well, and the nice thing is to be able to go to a scholar and say, I largely disagree, but I love what you said here. To not have this all or nothing attitude towards a particular scholar. People still bring good things to the conversation. And to say, you know what, on these big things, you and I are on very different pages, but still, thank you so much for the good things you brought to us. And to have that kind of generous attitude towards scholarship. And sometimes you're literally talking to somebody face to face, and you get into an argument in the meeting, and then you're going out for dinner afterwards. And I love that kind of camaraderie that we can have as scholars.
yeah. Well, number 5, which kind of builds off of what we
I
just
might
said
have
here.
jumped ahead of my bed.
Oh.
I mean, in what I said the last one. Keep going.
Right.
You're
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, Sam kind of already said this.
Okay.
But thou shalt not assume that what we've said on the air represents the fullness or complexity of what we believe about a subject. You want to go off on it
I
again?
pulled a Ron, and I'm sorry, Ron, I'm not making fun of you. But
I'm so used to it nowadays.
yeah,
You might as well not even be talking to me.
yeah, like we're saying things that are based on a lot of other research and background that we don't have time to, put out there. And so we'll say something and you'll be like, I've never heard that before. I'm not sure I agree with that. I'd love the opportunity to explain why I think that, but that's not what we're doing here. Right. And so that's just how the medium works. But yeah, it's based on things that we can't give the full picture all the time. We try to do as much as possible, especially when we're like doing biblical books and we can do context and stuff like that helps bring things alive. But generally speaking, when we're going through a passage and we like say something about it, it's based on things. It's not just how we woke up and felt this morning. And so, but we can't communicate all that at once.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if you guys, I feel this way all the time when I'm in a freshman class and they'll ask a question that is a deep theological question that requires, 2 to 3 years of education to get at the right answer, what I would say the right answer, right? And so I'm like, how do I answer this freshman? And so I'll either put them off or say, well, this is where we're at, and this is the answer I would go with. And then they're like, I never heard that before. Like, yes, I know, because we got a lot to get there, right? And so it's just kind of the same with the podcast. We're going to say things, you're like, I don't know how you arrived there. Correct.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of throat clearing that you have to do on
Yeah.
these kinds of things. And we don't always have time in class. We don't always have time in a 45-minute podcast. The book I'm working on, I keep finding myself in those throat clearing moments where it's like, I got to get all this stuff out ahead of time because that's the only way I can set up what I'm about to say. And the nice thing is you can do that in a book because you're not limited by time. You might be limited by space if that's the case.
You always have footnotes, at least to point to
Exactly.
the more nuance. Yeah.
Yep, and I've already got some footnotes going like that. And so you like being able to do that, and it's easy to do in a book, hard to do in a podcast, and sometimes hard to do even in class.
Yeah. How do you answer a yes or no question that has like a lot to get there? Like,
Yeah.
do you have to be baptized to be saved? Where do we begin?
Yeah,
how
and
do we
what
have-
assumes are you bringing to that question?
Exactly,
yeah,
If
yeah.
I say one or the other, what baggage are you going to
Right.
attribute to me? And
Things like that.
and sometimes you just have 2 minutes to say something.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Kind of like now, because we got 10 things to go through and 45 minutes to do it.
All right. Number 4. Thou shalt not assume that all 3 of us believe what only one of us has said on the air. Facts. Like, I don't have to contradict everything you all say.
Right,
Not that
yeah.
there's a
Right.
ton of it, but like that doesn't make for a great podcast. Like, oh, well, no, that's not it. Yeah.
Well,
that's not fun for the listener, I don't think. Well,
we
some
have
of you
had
might
people
like it.
tell us, though,
Yeah.
that there should be more disagreement. Like, that if you guys would disagree with each other, it would like ramp up interest in the podcast. And to a degree, we've said, well, we're not going to do that on purpose. We're not going to just sort of disagree with each other to get more listeners and all that kind of stuff, because we frequently land in the same place. And that's not really the way we want to run the podcast. It makes me think of like when we did our series on James. You brought in a lot of your research on James. You kind of led that conversation. If I'd led the conversation, it would have been different, because I've done work on James, and I probably would have even made some different, maybe even opposite points. But the point was, you did the research. We're going to build off your research, and we're going to have a conversation around that research. And it worked great, And so if I want to do one on James, then I'm just going to have to do it at a different time. And so, yeah, I think it's a fantastic point to make, I think I like the fact that we usually land in the same place. And those rare times when we offer a different opinion, it just kind of grows organically out of the conversation, but not forcing it.
Yeah. So sometimes we do take time when it seems
Yeah.
appropriate and we have the time to push back on one another. However, there are times when we could offer pushback when we don't.
Yeah.
Just for lack of time, or there's only so much hurt feelings out there that you want to give. And so we guard each other's dignity, and we keep the flow of the podcast, and we're aware of time. And so just don't assume, if Ron said something or Sam said something I agree with, and vice versa. There's more diversity between the three of us than you might pick up on the podcast.
And that's how we learn and grow. Going back to a previous point, listening to each other in that diversity. Sometimes it's like, you're making a point I've never seen or heard before, and I'm really glad I have that. Sorry, I took my glasses off, put my glasses on.
We would never make fun of that.
Not at all. It never happens on this podcast. Number 3, don't assume you've heard us clearly if you think we've said something that's obviously outrageous or unbiblical. Because we never say outrageous or unbiblical things here. We've had to give explanations at times when people have heard things like that, and we've had to clarify in the past. I think part of this, and you guys will add yours, but part of it is we think we're being clear. And it's not until we talk to somebody else, go, oh, I guess I wasn't as clear as I thought I was, and so misunderstandings happen. And I think it's important to have a generous attitude to say, I'm not going to assume that you said something heretical. I want to talk to you and find out what your views are. And usually we can clear things up. And so if we say anything like that, that's the best time to shoot us a message through Facebook Messenger or something like that, or an email to say, I heard you say this. Is this what you meant? And it affords us an opportunity to clarify and make things more explicit.
Yeah, this is based on something that, as professors and just as humans, is a fundamental insight about how communication works and how people hear each other. Like, everything that every listener is getting out of each episode and each thing we say is one part the content of the episode and one part what's already in their head and part of their frame of reference.
Yeah, good point.
And so every point that you take away from this podcast, just by the way learning works, is one part us and one part you. And sometimes the you part, for you, there's only 2 positions on this, and and that's your category in your head. And we articulate something that might not agree with the 2 positions you think are available, but you can only hear what your brain has categories to process. And so you're going to put us into one of 2 positions that your brain is capable of. And we might say, yeah, we don't claim either of those 2, but you're hearing the one side or the other. And this happens a lot because we, more often than not, we take a third position on the 2 most dominant views because our society is so binary, right? There's the progressive and the conservative, and there's a concerted political news media effort to push people into one camp or the other. And there's so many positions that are associated with one side or another, and we are trying to just set that whole categorization aside and give positions that grow out of the Scripture. And sometimes it will land more in one camp than the other. Sometimes it transcends the camp. Sometimes it's like a third position altogether. And so if you think we're saying something outrageous, I can't believe they're saying that, just not in keeping with the other things they say and what I thought they believed. Like, I can't believe, boy, I guess I didn't know them. Like, it's probably you. And not that you're trying to mishear us, but your mental receptors only have certain categories, and you're forcing us to conform to something that's already in your head. And it's not your fault. We all do that all the time, and we have no choice.
We ourselves are sometimes guilty of that, and it
Absolutely.
takes a concerted effort on somebody else's part to say, you're forcing me into this or that category, and I'm going to tell you there's a third category. And through conversation, we're able to go, oh, yep, I see it now. But that initial response is, unfortunately, you're right, John, A or B, and just no room for C for a while.
I would say if you feel like we've said something outrageous, please contact the president and of the college.
And any trustees you might know.
Yeah, and just let them know.
Talk to the missions committee.
Yeah.
Who
Say this is not the way to go.
Gives money to the college.
I know, right?
To be clear, that was sarcastic.
Big time.
And this has happened to us, all of us at different times where, and again, is what John was saying, a student hears one thing, which is not the totality of what we said in class. And they go home to their minister and say, the Old Testament
This
professor
is what they're teaching
said
over
this.
there.
And then they go and complain to the president. And we get called in the office and said, "Do you say this?" I said, "No, that's not what I said. This is what I said." Like, oh, well, so yeah. So don't do that. Talk to us. That'd be great.
Yeah.
If you think you heard something, talk to us.
A classic example of this is someone read my Genesis commentary on Genesis 1-11, and they misread what I was saying on authorship theories. And then they complained to the college administration about what we're teaching in the classroom. And they misread it. I mean,
Right.
anyone who can read carefully and critically would see that that's not what's being said. But
Right.
And B, the commentary gets in the weeds in ways that I don't spend time in my introductory Bible classes.
Right.
And so just because it's in my commentary doesn't mean I'm teaching it in the classroom. And B, they misread it because they had the two camp theories. And I clearly wasn't landing in the camp they wanted me to. And so they assumed, therefore, you must be in the opposite camp. So happens a lot. It's painful. It's why in Scripture, Jesus, when he tells us, if someone has something against you, go to them one-on-one.
Yep.
And I think the reason to go to them one-on-one is not to condemn them for being wrong. It's to say, man, I thought I saw this or I heard this from you, and that doesn't seem like something you would want to say. And it allows for a clearing of the air.
Yeah.
And to hear, to double check with what you think is this horrific thing to make sure that's actually the truth. And if you can't work it out, then you bring in a third party to help mediate. Like something like that should happen as you're listening to people online. If you care about them, you will follow up with a question. Did I hear you right?
Yep.
Who's next?
You.
All right. Number 2. Thou shalt not take us too seriously. So this number 2 has a history.
Yes.
We do try to entertain here on the podcast, and
At least ourselves.
right. And sometimes we do playful things and humorous things, and sometimes we do satirical things. And so the classic example of this is our Shamgar episode, where we did a whole satire on basically how not to read the Bible to say things that the Bible's not saying, built on an obscure judge.
Right.
And several of our listeners took us too seriously, right? And again, everyone has different ears that they hear with. Certain people smelled satire right away, but some people are like, I can't believe they're teaching this. And kudos for them. They did reach out to us
Right.
and
Yeah.
say, guys, I can't believe you're teaching that kind of stuff or whatever. And then we were able to have a conversation. That's not what we meant. Wait till the next episode. We are going to unpack the satire and all the lessons we meant to teach with it. But for a week, there was a time when people maybe took an episode too seriously that was not meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah, we don't do that often, but occasionally we do. And it's not to offend you or to pull the wool over your eyes. It's just, having a little fun, poking a little fun, because this is out there. Like, people do this, and we don't want to be complete jerks about it, but we also want to point out, there's flaws in that.
Yeah. And sometimes I just think people forget that Bible scholars are human, that we have a sense of humor, that we like to have
And
fun.
most don't, but most can.
Yeah. Those rare people out there.
Sure.
And in many ways, that was the most fun episode because we got to do all the things we like to make fun of. And in our preparation, in our conversation, we got to be like people we don't get to be. And it was just so much fun. And we're fun people,
Yeah.
I
we're
think
all
we
right.
are. I'm going to put it out there. I think we're fun people.
Okay.
So understand.
You're a real fun guy.
Thanks.
Do you remember the title of that episode about Shamgar?
No.
Oh. Well, you should be able to. If you want to find this episode, go to our website, our Libsyn After Class
Yep,
website, and just on the topic window type in Shamgar, and oh man, that was so much fun.
It was fun because
disturbing too.
yeah, it reminds us. It reminds us when we did our little satire in the Christian Standard, and it was fun.
Oh, yeah.
It was fun to do that and completely misinterpret the Bible, and like I said, do all the things we teach our students not to do. But
yeah, biblically correct was the
that's way back in the archives.
yeah, and that was a fun year. Writing those satires was a lot of fun.
You know what we should do? We should get permission from the Christian Standard to republish those and make them available on our shared website space.
Yeah,
that'd be fun.
I think we could put them into a book at some point. We'd probably have to add more to it.
I think we'd have to have more than 10. But
yeah, right. But that would be a fun book.
Or
to
only
publish.
one section of the book is devoted to satire, and other sections can go different directions.
Or maybe a satire, then a rebuttal to the satire.
Oh man, a transcription of the Shamgar episode.
That would be great.
Oh, fun ideas. That's what'll happen when we go away to our SBL conference. We talk and dream about mutual projects that we're going to do together and things like that. And there will probably be a book that'll come out of this podcast at some point in time.
That'd be great.
All right, we finally made it. Number one.
Number one.
Do I get to do it?
Yes,
you
you do.
Thou shalt not use us to replace the teachers God has gifted your church with.
You're looking over at me.
I don't know. I'm just looking around.
Well,
I read it.
yeah, but I think it is really important because God brought these people to your church for a reason, and you're going to learn a lot from them. We're not here to undermine them, to make them look bad, to do any of that kind of stuff. We're just here, as a supplement. But God brought people to your church to teach you and listen to them. They're going to bring God's wisdom to you. And definitely don't try to beat them around the head with something that we said on this podcast. That would be a horrible way to use what we're doing here.
Yeah, this point in part grew out of a study my church is doing called Restless Devices. And it's about just being aware of technology and the impact that it's having on this world and our devices and AI and things like that. And I got pretty convicted as I was getting into this to realize that, God has gifted the church with all sorts of people, like people in acts of service, hospitality, people who know how to dress well, people who teach the Bible, people who are handymen. And, they're just all these gifts that God has blessed the church. And the purpose of those gifts is that they might edify the body, right? And that the body might be using all of its gifts and every member a minister, right? And to use your gifts to bless other people blesses you because it's more blessed to give than receive, right? And I realize that, AI, the way it functions often is, if I need to do something, or even Google or YouTube, if I need to do something, I first go to my digital resources, right? And I'll watch a video on how to install drywall or whatever, right? And then I learn from the video, I'm learning from these strangers, and then I go and I do it, But there are people in my church who are gifted at that, who want to use their gift to build up the body. And I never go to them because I'm going to strangers on YouTube. I'm kind of farming out my help to other people.
That's a really good point.
And, when you think about all the ways we can, and our use of digital media is only going to grow and grow and grow, it can become true that, thinking of 1 Corinthians 12, like no part of the body can say to another part, I don't need you.
Okay,
right? The eye cannot say to the ear, I don't need you. The ear cannot say to the nose, I don't need you. We can get to the point with AI that we can say of the parts of the body, I don't need you. For music, I can go to these professional musicians. For advice on electrical, I can go to YouTube. For Bible instruction, I can go to the After Class podcast. For a preaching experience, I can go to one of the best teachers in the world, right? Best preachers in the world. And then, so I'm getting this advanced help from all these strangers, and they are checking my boxes. And then I just look at the preachers, the music people, the handymen and women in my church, and I say, I don't need you. Or I'm so much being helped by these strangers that the people that God has placed in my life just seem not good enough. They get diminished in my eyes, right? And that just brought conviction, right? Like,
that's powerful.
Wow,
That is really
the
powerful.
body of Christ can become truly independent with the help of AI from one another, and people are just sitting on their gifts because no one's asking them. And that made me feel like, oh, shoot, like part of what we do with the podcast is give advanced biblical instruction, right? And it pained me to think that there might be some people who listen that have a lower view of the teachers in their church, or that they go to us first before they go to the people in their churches for Bible instruction. And that's not why Great Lakes exists. That's not why this podcast exists. Your most fundamental teachers in your church should be the people God gifted your church with. And if you want to supplement with a book and supplement with a podcast, that's one thing. But don't ever put us in place of the people God gave you. And I loved what my brother did. He's part of a church in Detroit area. And, when people come to him with complex questions, he would say, hey, listen to this podcast episode on the issue, and then come to me and let's talk about it. Right? So he used us as a resource, get some background there, and then we will talk together about how the rubber hits the road for our church and in our time and place. And so he found a way to make use of us without us replacing him and other people like him in the church. And that's what we would encourage you all to do.
Yeah, I think you hit on the key there. Is about contextualization. Like when we talk about things, we give applications. They're not universal, right? It might not work necessarily in your church in the way we're talking about, right? And so yes, we're talking about general biblical knowledge, but what that actually means and looks like in your church and your context will probably be wildly different than ours. And so, so we encourage you, get the information, think about it, consider it, and then now let's have a discussion as a body, as a church, about what that looks like, whatever topic it might be. And I think that's a key thing. And that's a great use of what we do, right? Instead of saying, hey, they say this, so we need to do this. No, it's like, they say this, what does this look like for us? Mm-hmm. Assuming you agree with us. And if not, contact the president. I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think that's a great way to end it.
Yes.
With contacting the president? Agreed.
Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of the After Class podcast. After Class because
the best conversations happen
after class.
I went backwards.
Yes, you did.
Don't care.
Thank you again for listening to this episode of the After Class podcast. ACP is hosted by Sam Long, John Nugent, and Ron Peters. Social media pictures and descriptions are provided by Darren Harris. Audio mixing and editing is done by Drew Nyquist. If you've enjoyed this episode of ACP, you might also enjoy GLCC's Master of Arts in Practical Theology degree. In this 36-hour program, you will receive first-rate biblical and theological instruction from John, Ron, Sam, and several of their colleagues at Great Lakes Christian College. To learn more about this program, visit glcc.edu. Get practical and go deep at GLCC.